Howdy, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining me. I have been looking at doing a Raspberry Pi portable for a while, and I've been spending quite a bit of time on it, and I don't have that much time to begin with, so I'm doing way more on this than I actually wanted or planned to do. But I thought I'd go through what I've done so far. I've had some success with the wiring. I've had a number of issues to resolve, but the actual circuit and everything else is working the way I intended. The case is not coming together the way I would have liked. I'm spending way too much time on it. I'm not happy with it at all, so I'm not going to continue with this particular case approach. I'll come back and revisit the Raspberry Pi portable at some point in time when I've got some. So anyway, let's have a look at what I've done thus far and go from there. Alright, so as you'll probably see here, I've got everything turned on and a whole heap of wiring hanging out the bottom. I'm actually part way through rewiring a couple of HDMI cables, just very short, just to connect the two boards that are inside this. So to start off, the keyboard. So this particular keyboard is one of the $20 ones that I spoke about off eBay. It's still running Bluetooth. So what I've been able to do is to get rid of the entire bottom half of the keyboard and the battery and everything else. So when you power on, this powers on with the rest of the system. So if we took a look at the keyboard connector, so this is actually, I'll get a close up of that part there. So this just in here is the battery connector that the 3.7 lithium volt battery was originally attached to inside the keyboard. I've just wired on two wires. I found a positive and a negative and determined that the board's actually happy taking 5 volts through that connection right there. So I've got the standard 5 volt supply, which is common pretty much across the entire project, going directly onto the battery terminals of this keyboard. Completely happy with all of that. It hasn't given me a moment's problem, so happy taking 5 volts through those connectors. So that's the actual keyboard itself. You can probably see just in here, I've got a few LEDs flashing. This is actually the Mophie charging circuit. So this particular little module takes 5 volts in through a micro USB connector, and it will charge using the proper charging methodology, the 3.7 volt lithium battery. So that's the little module here. I've tapped onto the positive 5 volts inside the connector and the negative. So I've got 5 volts coming in here, and I've got 5 volts coming off the original battery terminal, sorry, the charging of the original battery terminals going to the 3.7 volt lithium battery that also came out of the Mophie. So this is a 2 amp battery. As it is right now, the entire system's running off mains power. I have a little switch down the bottom there to be able to have a little switch down here to be able to switch the battery on and off. So if I switch that now, I'm shutting down the battery, and you can see that the LEDs have just gone full, indicating to me that I'm actually running off mains power. I've got a 5 volt wall wart plug pack powering the entire device. So if I switch back to battery, right, you'll see the indicators stay full because it's still got mains power. But if I disconnect the mains power, so as you can see now, that's actually showing me my battery level. So I'm not charging at the moment, and the battery is down to about 30% roughly. Just use those 4 LEDs as an indicator. But everything's still fully functional, running off battery power, right? And I don't need to do anything else other than, when I want mains power, walk up to the device and plug in mains power. I am now charging the battery. That's what these indicator lights are telling me. And the device is still fully functional as intended. So underneath the keyboard, I've talked about the little Mophie charger, and that's taking 5 volts in direct from mains, or sorry, DC 5 volt external power, going directly into this little Mophie battery charger, charging the battery and giving us those indicator lights. This unit here is the Pololu 5 volt voltage regulator. It's a step up voltage regulator. I spoke about this one in the last episode regarding a portable Raspberry Pi. So this one takes the input from the Raspberry, takes the input from the battery at 3.7 volts and gives you a constant 5 volts out. What I have done, a little bit hard to see, but inside of this terminal block, which I don't really want to keep, but inside this terminal block I've got a 1N5822, I believe it is. Yep. I've got a 1N5822 diode, one of those. So that is what's helping me with separating the 5 volts coming in via the external wall plug and the 3.7 volts coming out of the battery going through this Pololu step-up regulator and producing 5 volts out going into the rest of the circuit. With that diode there, the 5 volts is connected to this end of the plug, but because this is not allowing current to flow back through the voltage regulator, it is effectively cutting off the supply of power coming out of the voltage regulator and providing 5 volts through the rest of the circuit. When this is not active, then the 5 volt regulator has no challenging current, if you want to call it that, and is able to provide, it's actually about 4.8 volts. I lose about 0.2 of a volt through the diode. So I'm getting about 4.8 volts going through the rest of this circuit, but the circuit's completely happy with 4.8 volts. No problems out of the Raspberry Pi, the display driver, or the actual LCD itself, or any of the buttons and other functions that have been provided. No problems whatsoever. So that's where it's all come together. I still have to connect these HDMI cables. I've got to cut them off here. I've started doing another cable and join them in through here, and then I've got to tidy up all of this wiring. But the main reason that I'm probably not going to continue with this is I do not like the case. I've been using what I had. I used the keyboard, which is what I had. I used the Mophie bits, which is what I had, and I was happy with that. But I'm also using 3mm MDF as the frame of the case. So it's basically this stuff. And that's rigid enough in small pieces to be able to make a case out of. The problem is 4 of those, which is what I need to sandwich some sort of clamshell case together, 4 of those is already, what's that, ½ inch thick. So by the time it's all slapped together, this entire thing's probably going to be, it's already 20-25 mil here, so it's talking a solid 2 inches, maybe 2.5 inches thick, and I think we can do better than that. So I'm not going to continue right now with this case approach. I'm going to give the case a lot more thought and come up with something a little bit more svelte, slim everything down, sort of like a Mark II if you like, and try and come up with a better design, 1 for the case and 2 to minimise the extraneous components. I've got too much wiring in there. Now that I've got everything working really, really well, I'll just emulate this approach and yeah, put it into a better case. Well, that's all I've got time for this week. Time's been absolutely terrible of late, so I will leave it at that. I will revisit this in a future episode once I've got some more time to actually do a proper case, measure it out, use some different materials so that it's not going to be so chunky and so thick, but I will keep the components that I've got working there because it is working quite well. I've had this running overnight, no heat issues or anything else to that effect. It's been pretty good, and I've had the battery charging as the mains power's been connected. Everything else is working exactly as you would expect, pretty much like a laptop does. And I've also run this just in standby, not doing anything specific, just running the screen and the Wi-Fi, but not driving it hard. I've been running that for about an hour and a half on that little 2 amp lithium battery. So not too bad. I'm pretty happy with the way the componentry's all worked out, just not happy with the case approach. So something to revisit in the future. So thanks very much. So thanks very much for joining me and watching the show. Subscribers are always welcome, so feel free to subscribe, that would be great. and I hope you'll join me again next week.